So, welcome to Northern Powerhouses, our business success stories series of interviews, where we discuss with local business leaders, their backgrounds, their successes, their challenges, and what's really driving them forwards. And this morning, I'm delighted to have with us Stephen Geer, who's director at RedRoots Property. So, firstly, Stephen, thank you for coming on board and spending some time with us. And if you'd like to introduce yourself, RedRoots, what you do, how you help people, that'd be wonderful.
Yeah, thanks very much, Chris. Firstly, thank you very much for inviting me onto the
Welcome.
podcast. Thank you. Stephen Geer, like I say, director of Red Roots Property. I'm in business with my brother Matthew, and yeah, essentially, well, there's quite a few things really going on really in terms of across the property spectrum. So we've got an estate agency, we've got a lettings company as well, got a refurbishment company, and then also we do a little bit on like the portfolio investment side as well. So bit of a mixed bag, but yeah, makes no 2 days the same.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful. I know, I can imagine that. So, I mean, just about, obviously, you got different types of businesses there, but what makes a great client for you? What are the best people that you best, you work with in general as clients?
Sure. So, I mean, we're actually sort of going through a bit of a transition with the business in terms of the estate agency side. So, we're quite passionate about doing things slightly different to how the traditional way an estate agency is run. And with that, it's kind of more of like a brokerage style. So, you may or may not have seen, for example, some agents around your local areas with like faces on the boards and things like that. That's where the independent agents are trying to break through
Yep.
and sort of break the back of the larger corporate,
Yes.
sort of like I say, more traditional models. So that's been kind of like the route been kind of going down. So that I guess really our client now is our partner agents, So
Right.
whereas once upon a time it was myself sort of selling the homes, and I still do, albeit only a handful at a time.
Yep.
Ultimately, our clients now is serving the partner agents so that they've got the best foundation and the best toolkit to then be able to serve their clients. So it's kind of like a brokerage style. So I guess really a good client to me at the moment is realistically it's an agent who's got the right morals, good at what they do, care about the client, passionate about what they do, and essentially wanting to launch their own business. And then that's where the Red Roots brokerage could help support them.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Well, look, Stephen, perhaps we could look back to start with, and you could tell us a bit more about your background, how you got into business, and why this particular one for you.
Sure, thank you. So I guess really, if you were to stretch it back to when I was just a kid, really, my dad started getting involved with property. So way back when he was a lorry driver, HGV driver through the nights, and then during the day, as a bit of a trying to build up a pension pot, he started buying houses,
Right.
turning them round, and then either selling them on or renting them out.
Yep.
So I think he bought his first property around 2001 time. And yeah, sure enough, as things are, they sort of, make a load of mistakes, figure it out into the next one, and then sort of rinse and
Yep.
repeat for several years, really. So as you can imagine, with it being sort of property, there's plenty you can do, even as a sort of non-skilled person, just labouring, mucking in, doing what you can, doing the tip runs and all that sort of thing. So as a family business, my brother and I, we grew up sort of being in and around property,
Yep.
and yeah, sure enough, while we are still at school, Matthew kind of picked up more of like the tradesman side. So eventually he went to college and then became a plasterer. So that was really helpful in terms of obviously.
Hi,
Oh,
Stephen.
yep,
Sorry, I think I lost you for a sec there. I
that's
think
it. I'm a back now. You're moving again, Chris.
you're back now. I think it was my end, so forgive me for that. That doesn't happen very often.
No
Um,
problem.
so forgive me. I think it must have just been a glitch. Um, well, look, if we could perhaps continue. So you were just talking about your brother going to college.
That's the one, yeah. So my brother, he went into the plastering trade, which helped with like the maintenance side. He was always the person who was far better than me, being in any sort of in any hands-on capacity. I'm absolutely useless with a hammer or nail. Yeah, I sort of assisted from like a labouring side, but never really. That wasn't my skill set. I was always quite good at sort of school from an academic point of view. So yeah, I was advised by my mother, no, you need to stay in school, go to uni. So that's kind of what I did. So interesting. I went into university, but not to do with anything to do with property. In fact, I found myself being a podiatrist. So
Right.
feet of all things.
Right.
I always liked the sports side, but I realised I weren't going to make a physio because I didn't have the volunteering experience. But I was keen to get going, so they
Yep.
put me onto podiatry, and as they say, the rest was history. So yeah, long story short, 3 years of studying podiatry, I went into the NHS and private practice, and really enjoyed it. I mean, it worked at that point quite well then, because at that time Matthew was developing his skills. So
Yep.
then we wanted to build a portfolio, and obviously, being self-employed and trying to get lending and things like that, it was quite the challenge. So obviously, with myself being in the NHS, nice easy pay slips, could get the
Yep.
borrowing, pile it into some projects, and then obviously keep doing what we're doing, but kind of a bit between me and our Matt. Like so,
Yes.
that's how the business started. We then obviously at the time interest rates were quite low, so this is sort of pre-COVID. We did do quite a bit on like a private finance basis where we was getting sort of like private lenders,
Yep.
people basically in the NHS. So it was like my managers, sort of
Right.
yeah, sort of people above me, so to speak, with a bit of sort of well, not so much the time, not so much the knowledge, but then a bit of cash sort of saved away.
Yes.
Obviously, they're not getting anything in terms of the bank, sort of savings wise. So then they would invest it into our projects and things like that. So that worked quite well. It helped us sort of scale things up. As you can imagine, cash flow is not the easiest thing to tackle in the property game,
Yep.
but they help facilitate that. And then, long story short, really, it was doing well enough that after 3 or 4 years in the NHS, I was able to go full time into the property side. So,
Brilliant.
yeah, we tried sort of transitioning it so that I would find the properties, I would find, the off market stuff, the houses which needed doing up. Obviously, our Matt
Yep.
was well placed to do the properties up. And then at this point, my dad had a letting agency as well. So, for example, if someone knew nothing about property, all of a sudden they could have like a full-on hands-on service of,
Yes.
you've now got a tenant in, and obviously it's again more like from a pension mindset, but just planning for the future. So
Brilliant.
yeah, it's a strange old way around it. Yeah, did I need to go to uni to become a podiatrist? No, but has it helped me? Yeah, absolutely no end.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So there's yourself, your brother, and your dad still running and growing the business.
Yeah, that's it. My dad is sort of semi-retired now.
Yep.
He's really good with us. At the end of the day, he does like the viewings and things like that for particularly like the rental side, or he'll do like the
Yep.
property inspections. The jobs which perhaps take up quite a bit of your time. Very important still to be done correctly. You
Yes.
need someone who you can trust, obviously, but
Yep.
at least it does free up our time for other parts of the business. So my dad's really helpful at filling in the gaps, particularly on the letting side. Um,
Yep.
and then, as I say, it's more my brother and I, Matthew, still on the tools, still doing the projects, and then myself, it's more like the office side, which is helping to grow out the estate agency with that brokerage network I alluded to earlier.
Brilliant. As you've grown in the business, what are some of the biggest issues and challenges you've had to overcome?
Sure, I mean, like I said, when going back to like the family business, I mean, my dad started his letting agency back in 2011. So, like I said,
Yep.
we were coming through the ranks and always saw that as that was the family business.
Yep.
Now, at the time, my dad had a business partner, and whilst things were going relatively okay, as sometimes these things sort of come to a head. And basically, obviously, as me and Matt were trying to get more and more involved in the business, it was becoming apparent that we were sort of at loggerheads with my dad's old business partner. And
Right.
again, sort of not delving into the ins and the outs. Ultimately,
Yes.
it wasn't our name above the door. So it
Yep.
was a case of me and Matt just having an honest conversation. So we're going to have to cut as losses almost and sort of say, I know we put as heart and soul into building that particular business. We were going to have to just go it on our own. And ultimately,
Goodness.
sort of, yeah, we just done the full rebrand, sort of trying to give it the big push, the refresh. But like I say, it was like one thing after another. Right, we'll do this, we'll do that. And it was us funding it ultimately. And it was just, it's, we're not well, we felt we were young enough, we were ambitious enough, had the right sort of thinking. We were just quite passionate about doing it in our way, and I
Yes.
guess really the only way to do that is to sort of almost start fresh. So yeah, new name, new limited company, almost starting pretty much
Oh,
from scratch, except for your sort of your local recommendations who know you personally. Which so yeah, that was definitely the biggest issue.
wow.
from a mindset point, cash flow perspective. Like I said, getting a new name out there, and particularly like the estate agency side, it's a tough market to crack because there's so many.
Yes.
It's a crowded market, isn't it? So yeah, that was back in 2020, 2021 time,
Yeah.
and then obviously it's yeah, we're now sort of, well, 5, 6 years down the line now. So I feel
Well
like
done.
we've, yeah, kind of through the worst of it. At least the name's kind of out there.
No, it's wonderful, eh? And you may or may not know the very unfortunate stats of business survival, but unfortunately, 80% of businesses fail in the first 5 years. So getting to 5 years is a real milestone. So well done for that.
Thank you.
It shows you've got a good model going. And whether it's from the challenges, obviously that's quite a significant one, or the successes. What are your biggest learnings about growing a successful business, Stephen?
I think I've, you kind of do a bit of soul searching even without kind of recognizing it yourself, really. And not to sound kind of woo woo with it, I think you do understand when you go through these challenges, like how do you want to sort of come out the other side. And
Yes,
for me, it was just recognizing about who I am as a person, what sort of values do I truly believe in. And I guess really I was always more content with myself when I stayed true to those values. I didn't
brilliant.
deviate from them. You kind of made them the foundation for your day-to-day decisions, which then when it sort of pulls through, at least you're kind of thinking, well, I did what I felt was right at that specific point in time. And even it wasn't the right idea, oh, we tried this, it didn't quite work out, whatever, at least you did it with to your best of knowledge at that time. And I think
Brilliant.
because we are of an age, I mean, I turned 30 this year, so I do feel kind of almost fearless in terms of thinking I've kind of got time on my side to
Yes.
cock things up, and
Yep.
I, I don't want to have that fear of regret, I guess,
Brilliant.
and thinking I could have done this, I could have done that. It's the same reason when handed the notice in with the NHS. It was there's never the right time, but it was always like if I don't do
Brilliant.
it now, I'm going to kick myself, and I guess yeah, I just kept moving forward since then.
Brilliant, absolutely fantastic, and I 100% agree with you. Is that and two things there is one thing, mindset is key in successful business ownership. It is all about mindset, and you've demonstrated that, as you say, leaving the NHS, leaving the other business. These things take quite a significant challenge of belief, but also values led businesses tend to be the most successful ones for lots of different reasons, but including and especially for me, we attract the right people to the business. When we're clear on our values, we attract the right people, whether that's team members, whether that's customers, if we're clear on what those values are, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's I guess the old saying, success leaves clues, and I think when you speak to people who are perhaps further down the journey you're trying to go on, it's you do speak to them, and there's that always that it doesn't matter what industry, no one can regrets sort of staying true to yourself. And I guess when we've had our challenges, you kind of think, right, well, did I make the decisions at the time? Whether it be that you've had some people who have been perhaps not good from a culture perspective, but
Yep.
then they brought in the money. They were you were looking at the wrong metrics, and it's kind of like, well, we've kind of gone through that now, and you're almost, I don't know, once bitten, twice shy, so to speak. It's you recognise, right, well, when I've gone for it and led with like that gut feel within you, you're far more happier, generally speaking. I think
Yes.
moving forward, it's and that's something which, yeah, kind of learned the hard way, but I guess that's all part of just maturing as a business owner.
Brilliant. Brilliant. And I think you're aware we're a business coaching organisation. I'm keen to know who the best coaches you've worked with, whether that's business, sport, or life in general. Who's had the biggest impact on you?
Yeah, I guess really I've been fortunate to have a variety of almost coach type roles, albeit they wouldn't necessarily see them as that. Even like from my dad, without
Yeah.
recognizing it, you're being brought up and
Yes.
sort of having it sort of it's so evident, like from a work ethic point of view, like it's your Friday night call outs to go and fix something, and it's like constant. And you know, there was never the lesson there. It was always just like it was just evident. It's just the norm. So
Yep.
without my dad sort of saying it, he's my coach by any means. He's taught me so many things, which
Yes.
if I can be the half the dad to my kids and sort of teach them and
Brilliant.
bring them on in life, then I'll be a happy man. But I
Brilliant.
think I mean, we've just started working with like a leadership coach. And he's got a very simple saying, which is you'll never outperform your own self belief. And I guess really it's always just asking yourself, can it get better than this, and what else is possible? And I think that really opens up your mind to like the curious way of thinking, and that's just even little things like that. It just helps sort of reset you when you're sort of getting inside your own
Yes.
head, just to think, right, you know what, let's you know, if I'm sort of putting limits on myself,
Yep.
you're never going to perform more than your own self belief. So it's like just open it up and let's see what is possible.
I think that's absolutely bang on. I think the second part to that is something we believe is also our learning. We never out earn our learning, if that makes sense. So it is
Sure.
it's both identity and knowledge. I think is so key because the more we grow those, the more we can grow ourselves and therefore grow our businesses, which makes perfect sense. So great quote, great. Any favorite books or podcasts you can share that you find about again business or success or life in general, and anything that you find yourself watching or listening to on a regular basis.
Yeah, I mean, I like the high performance podcasts.
Great.
It's obviously Damien Hughes and Jake Humphries. It's you know, that's a great podcast. I listen to quite a few industry specific ones, as you can imagine,
Yep.
and then even I mean, like I like the E Myth. I can't remember his name. Was it Franklin? Can't remember
Michael
exactly the Gerben.
Michael
Yes,
Gerber.
apologies. Yes, thank you.
No, no,
That's
it's
it.
all
It's things like that. They're books which kind of they're almost evergreen, and you can listen to them a
yeah.
couple of times and take something different from them. And I think just because, particularly with our model, it kind of again it just sort of pokes them things. We're very fortunate in this modern world, really, to have access to all these great podcasts and learnings
Yes.
almost freely available at the touch of a fingertips, aren't they? It's again
Couldn't
going
agree
back to
more.
my dad date. Well, like they was paying thousands of pounds to go into a university lecture hall, and it's there's never been a better time to absorb so much information.
Yes. Couldn't agree more. And it's as you say, readily available, easily used, and yeah, fantastic time to be growing a business without a shadow of a doubt. And staying on the learning front for a second, Steve, what would you say you'd learned about yourself throughout your journey so far?
I think probably just from a mindset point, I think I wouldn't necessarily recognise how the business looks now, even just say 2 years ago, or even stretching further back. I think just again, it goes back to just believing what is possible. Why would you put a bit of a cap on it? Why can't you try these things? I think the one thing that I have liked has been someone who's quite analytical is seeing the data actually feeding back to what the initial messaging was. When we started out with the estate agency, we didn't quite know what we were going to do. And then before you know it, you find like you've got a bit of a passion for it. And then you realise that you're
Yes.
doing things perhaps slightly differently or doing things to your best of your ability. But then obviously all your stats are then measured against other agents and you realise, well, we're performing better than others and things like that. So I guess really it's just been that nice sort of almost trial and error sort of mindset, which is then sort of like each time I keep trying something new, whilst there's always learnings and things like that. And I think that's just been the nice thing, really. I think it's
Brilliant.
hard when you're right at the beginning to have a clearer picture whether it's going to work or not. And I guess that's the beauty of, like you said, sticking it out for a number of years. You can get a bit of evidence behind it.
Yes, no, yeah, makes perfect sense. And we've got a phrasing actually, coach, which is our definition of a true business, which we believe is a commercial profitable enterprise that works without its owners. And I'm just keen to know your thoughts on that and how that may or may not relate to you.
Yeah, that's kind of how I would sort of look at the health of the business. And again, it's another metric that I'd look at myself for. And realistically, at the stage where I'm at, would I feel comfortable leaving the phone at home and going on holiday for the week? I wouldn't.
Yeah.
Even a few days, I just wouldn't. And I think that's the
Yep.
thing where that's your bit where it brings you back into reality. And I think really, we've got to keep working on the team, keep working on sort of developing them out. And it's now a reasonably sized team for where we are. There's about 18 people sort of within the
Wow.
network, so there's there's enough people's livelihoods almost on the line where you've almost got a responsibility as a business owner to make sure that things are being looked after.
Yes.
It'd be somewhat irresponsible really to leave things sort of keep coming back to me. It's like, well, why do I think I'm God's gift to see to this issue or that issue, or why can no one else do it better than me? Like, get out your own head, delegate, make sure the foundations are right, so that if for whatever reason the worst was to happen to me or
Yep.
whatever, the business could run itself and then ultimately pay the bills
Yeah.
essentially. So that's kind of something which I'm trying to work on. I think for the step for myself is to become less sort of on the tool selling the homes. Like I say, I'm still selling handful of properties. I think it's very intense, particularly our service where it's a one-to-one. It's a case that I'll come out and do the initial valuation. It's me doing the viewings. It's me doing the sale progression and
Yeah,
everything thereafter. So again, it's just internally, I wouldn't feel comfortable sort of coming away from that
yeah.
because I'd be sort of, I almost feel like you're abandoning your clients. So it's, I need to get the team to build out, and then they can run their business and share it out. Basically, there's only so many hours in the day, of course.
Yeah, I think it's for us it's the aspirational, it's the sort of aspirational side of where things move towards, I always put the word can in there, like can work without their owners, because if you absolutely love what you do, then there's no necessarily reason ever not to do it. But I think what it allows us to do is to focus on delegating stuff we don't enjoy, and I think you mentioned earlier about you're not particularly good on the tools, and it's like
Mm.
I tend to believe we like what we're good at, and we're good at what we like. So sometimes at certain stages of growing a business, we have to do stuff we don't really enjoy because we're the only people there. But being able to move towards something where we only spend our time, or primarily, I think it's Brian Tracy talks about the best organizations and businesses are the ones where most people spend most of their time doing the three things they really love and they're really good at. And if we do that, then we probably don't need to work as many hours as we do at the start of growing a business. It's very much, as I say, a journey rather than an outcome at the start. But if we don't focus on that, my belief is we end up becoming the bottleneck of the business. If the business is dependent on its owner, then we ultimately will be the bottleneck for the growth of an organization, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's one of our mentees actually shared some wisdom around that because I guess really when you're thinking about growing a team, and I think naturally you kind of look at it as a sort of top line cost, but then obviously you've got the other side to it, which it was an interesting sort of mindset, which is that it's a reward. If the P&L's sheets reflect that you can invest into your team and bring them in, then that's almost your reward as a business owner for getting to that level to then being able to delegate something,
Yes,
which should hopefully, you're in effect buying your time back, which,
yes,
you can then put them resources elsewhere. Because
uh,
you could work, you know, 24 hours a day, if you kind of wanted to, but you've got, again, understand it. You've got to kind of eventually be working your way out of that because that's not
yes.
necessarily, again, sustainable or healthy for personally as myself or the business, of course, when it gets to a certain stage.
Absolutely, or our families, because if we're not,
Mhm.
if we're 24/7 in a business, then yeah, there's a challenge. No, that makes sense. So amazing where you are already, and looking forward then, Stephen. What does the future look like for you guys, and what challenges do you think you might face, if any?
There'll always be challenges. I guess sometimes you don't know what you don't know, really. So we shall
Yeah,
see. I think, for example, like I said, growing out the brokerage model, we've currently got 8 partner agents, excluding
brilliant.
myself. Hopefully, soon to be 9. So yes, we've got the hub team as well, and someone there in other areas. But like I said, I really do want to work on growing out the brokerage. We've got a few agents specific in areas in Doncaster, which we're doing quite well in across over to Wakefield and then in Huddersfield as well as sort of a bit in between. I live in Aquif near Pontefract myself, so
Right?
I guess really we just want to try and build out that network of agents in and around us. And I guess whenever you're growing a team, there's always going to be the challenges of dealing with the varying personalities, making sure that
Yeah.
they abide by the standards that we set out. And I guess it's yeah, that's the initial thing. I guess financially, it's things like the right move bill each month, which just keeps going up and up, which as an
Yes.
agent you need to pay. But yeah, I guess it's all part of it, really.
Yes. And looking back, if you started again, is there anything significant you think you do differently?
I guess really you always think you could have done it sooner. I guess it's the easiest thing, is it? It's a bit like if you go, I don't know, for a run or something like that. You always say, I could have run a bit faster. You get your time back. You think, I could have gone a bit harder if I'd have just gone that. I think that's just natural. But I
Yes.
think I don't necessarily feel like I would do look back with many regrets because I feel like I wouldn't be where I am today if I'd have not gone through those experiences. So I can't not say, oh, I wish I didn't go to uni. I wish I went straight into it. That made me who I am. It made me
Yeah.
good with patience. It took me out of my comfort
Yes.
zone. Would I have had that skill set? Unlikely. I went into it as a shy kid. did my time at McDonald's, you'd think, well, what learnings can you get from McDonald's? But you're working in a billion-dollar
Plenty.
organization run by students, and it's running like clockwork, and you're thinking, right, well, operationally, like this is it's incredible. I mean, obviously, you get the film The Founder, and you sort of understand, okay, and it
Yeah.
pieces it together, but that sets the framework for
Yes.
how it kind of ran. And there's, like I said, there's learnings in sort of everyday's working life where so it's just trying to take them really. But yeah, I don't really have any major regrets really. Just do the best you
No.
can on any given day.
Absolutely, and as you say, if you'd done things differently, you might be in a different place. And you're clearly in a good place if you've done so. It feels like you've done so well. So and you also highlighted. I agree. The learnings you get from the things that don't go perfectly. We learn way more from those challenges, I think, than we do from the successes often.
Absolutely, yeah, completely agree.
So, final question: what's the best advice you could give an 18-year-old you if you could go back in time and do that, Stephen?
I say, be brave. You'll never outperform your own self belief. So make sure that you are going into things with full of belief as much as we possibly can.
Yep.
Believe what is possible, and just keep applying yourself. Keep learning. Be curious. If you're the smartest person in the room, you are very much in the wrong room. That sort of attitude, and yeah, I guess really surround yourself by the people who are, arguably doing better than you, however you kind of measure that at that
Yes.
specific point. But make sure you're surrounding yourself by those sort of people, and people who align with you and your values. Like I said, going back to it, I was always fortunate I had that with the family, but
Yep.
I guess really it's just be you'd look outside, externally for those people, whether it be in Yorkshire or otherwise.
Yes.
Go surround yourself with those people. You'll not regret it.
Brilliant. Sound advice for anybody that. Stephen, it's been fascinating talking to you today, and I really appreciate your time. And for anyone that's watching, that would like to get in touch with you or Red Boots, what would be the best way of doing that?
Yeah, I mean, Stephen Geer on LinkedIn. We've got a RedRoots property page, which is on Facebook and Instagram. Yeah, or you could email me, Stephen with a PH at redrootsproperty.co.uk. And yeah, welcome any questions or anything like that. Always happy to help if I can be of any assistance.
Brilliant. Well, look, it'd be great to swing by another 6, 12 months and just see the progression of where you're going right now, the new things you learned. But for now, thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks very much, Chris. Great to be on. Thank you.
Thank you.